Lin was a 26-year-old woman, working as a freelance accountant and living alone in a small apartment in Bin Duong. She didn't believe in anything spiritual, and never imagined she'd encounter something unexplainable. It all began on a rainy night in mid-July, when Lin was driving from Saigon back to her hometown in Tianjiang to visit her mother. The sky was pitch black. Her car passed along a long levee road, with nothing but rice fields and rain-soaked bamboo groves on both sides. The clock read nearly 11 p.m. Passing by an old gas station that had long been closed, Lin froze when she saw a figure standing by the roadside. She slowed down. It was a young woman in a thin white shirt, facing away from the road. Her long hair hung wet. At her feet were a pair of torn rubber slippers and a worn-out handbag. Lin carefully pulled her car closer, rolled down the window, and called out loudly, "Hey, sister, it's so late to be out here. Do you need help?" The girl didn't move. She didn't turn around. Lin hesitated, then reached to turn on her hazard lights. "Do you hear me? If you need a ride, I can give you a lift for a bit." That's when the woman finally turned around, slowly, stiffly, as if her neck didn't move properly. She looked at Lin, her face pale white, eyes sunken and black. Her lips were pressed tightly together. After a pause, she spoke in a voice as soft as the wind. "Just take me a short way, to the temple just past the bridge." Lin nodded instinctively. "Okay, but I'll only stop at the main road. I'm not turning into any small paths." The girl stepped over and got into the back seat. Rainwater dripped from her hair onto the seat, soaking the leather. Lin glanced in the rearview mirror and asked, "Didn't you bring a raincoat? It's been raining for a while." The girl replied quietly, almost whispering, "I've been standing there a long time, but no one stopped." Lin gave a nervous chuckle. "Probably because people are scared of strangers. There are no street lights around here, so it looks pretty creepy at night. I'm used to it. It's been a long time since someone stopped." Her voice trailed off and went silent. Lin swallowed hard, tightening her grip on the steering wheel. She felt as if the temperature in the car had just dropped a few degrees. A few minutes later, the car slowed as they neared a curve by the bridge. The girl in the back softly said, "Here we are, I'll get off here." Lin stopped the car, turned around gently, and asked, "It's so dark here, are you sure?" But no one was in the back seat. The door was still closed, the seat still soaked. Only the old, torn handbag remained, and a faint scent in the air, like incense smoke. A chill ran down Lin's spine. Her hands trembled as she opened the door and stepped out. She walked around the car. No one was there. The bridge loomed black in the rain. The insects had fallen silent. No cars, no lights. She turned back and stared at the bag. From inside came a soft knocking. 3 gentle taps. Lin stood frozen in the drizzling rain, eyes locked on the ragged handbag. The knock sounded like it came from within that tattered fabric. She wasn't sure what it was, maybe a rat, something falling, or just her imagination. But still, the scent of incense hadn't faded. She opened the back door, cautiously leaned down, and touched the strap. "Hello, is someone in there?" She blurted. No reply. Biting her lip, she gathered her courage and slowly opened the bag. Inside wasn't much. A brown monk robe, the kind people wear to temples, a broken comb, and at the bottom, an old, faded ID photo. She picked it up. It was a young girl, maybe 18, with long hair, wearing a white shirt and a faint smile. On the back, written in purple ink, Han, passed away on the 15th of the lunar July. Memorial at Lin Phap Temple. Lin froze. She checked the date. Today was the 15th of lunar July. Her hand shook. She quickly stuffed the photo and belongings back into the bag, placing it on the seat. "No, I need to go back to the temple. I have to return this bag." She shut the door, turned on the headlights, and turned the car around. After a few minutes of driving, she spotted an old sign. Lin Phap Temple. Turn left in 500 meters. The small road leading in was pitch black, paved with uneven stones, flanked by thick bamboo groves creaking in the wind. As soon as the car stopped, she heard the distant sound of temple bells echoing from within the forest. She honked softly. No one came out. Lin stepped down, hugging the bag to her chest, and called loudly, "Is anyone here? I came to return something for someone I know." The temple gate was ajar, not locked. She pushed gently and stepped inside. The courtyard was silent. Oil lamps flickered before the Buddha statue. The main hall still held the scent of incense smoke. In the center of the yard, an old monk sat chanting softly. Lin walked closer and whispered, "Excuse me, is this Lin Fap Temple?" The monk gave a small nod. Lin held out the bag, her voice trembling. "A girl asked for a ride here. But when we got to the bridge, she vanished. This is her bag." The monk looked up, his eyes calm and solemn. He said nothing, only slowly reached out to take the bag. But as he touched it, he paused. A girl in white, long hair, deep eyes, said she'd get off at the bridge? Lin nodded quickly. "Yes, do you know her?" The monk's tone grew heavy. "Every year, on this day, someone like her asks for a ride back to the temple. But no one ever makes it all the way." He opened the bag, turned over the photo, and murmured, "Han still hasn't finished her journey." Then he sighed gently. "You are the first one, with enough compassion to stop." Lin looked around, confused. "So, who is she? What happened to her?" The monk didn't answer right away. He stood and slowly walked toward the main hall. His voice echoed through the misty courtyard. "If you're not afraid, stay here tonight. Since you've met her, you should see her off properly." Lin sat in a small guest room beside the main hall. The head monk, who never gave his name, handed her a cup of hot tea. The oil lamp flickered against the rough brick wall. He asked softly, "Are you afraid?" Lin gently shook her head. "At first, I was, but now, I just feel sorry for her." The monk smiled faintly, saying nothing more. Outside, the rain continued. The sound of rustling bamboo leaves resembled soft, ghostly footsteps pacing the yard. Around midnight, the temple bell suddenly rang, 3 deep tones. Lin startled. The monk remained still, eyes half closed. He said quietly, "Go behind the main hall. Someone is waiting to be sent off. But remember, don't ask. And don't say her name." Lin stood, instinctively gripping the hem of her shirt. She walked down a narrow hallway, dimly lit by an old paper lantern. Behind the temple, there was an open yard. There, 3 people dressed in brown robes stood in a circle. In the center stood a girl in a white dress. Her head bowed low. Her long hair was drenched. Her face was unclear. Lin walked slowly, heart pounding. One of the robed figures quietly chanted a prayer, holding a large bundle of burning incense. The strong scent of agarwood mixed with ash and the chill of the midnight air. A solemn voice rose in steady rhythm. "With one heart we chant Buddha's name, guide the lost soul back to its path." The girl in white lifted her head. That face was the same face from the photo. Lin held her breath. She saw clearly that the girl's eyes were filled with tears, but none fell. She stood still, holding the same old bag Lin had returned. One of the 3 people spoke slowly. It was hard to tell if it was a man or woman. "Han has been waiting for 13 years. If she is not guided tonight, the cycle will repeat." The girl looked around. Her gaze passed over Lin, slow and deep. Though Lin said nothing and didn't speak her name, the girl gave a gentle smile. That smile was one of thanks and farewell. As the incense smoke rose a 3rd time, a gust of wind swept through the yard, extinguishing the lights. In the swirling smoke, the girl began to step backward. No trace of her heels. No wet footprints left behind. She stepped slowly, and kept retreating until she disappeared into the darkness behind the bamboo trees. The next morning, Lin woke up in the old room. The tea was cold, her clothes unchanged. In the temple yard, the old bag had been burned, its ashes scattered in the shape of a lotus flower. The abbot looked at her, his eyes still bright. "You did the right thing. Not everyone chooses to stop, but you did." Lin nodded slowly. "If I hadn't stopped, she would have continued on a path that never ends." The monk handed her a small pouch. "Keep this with you, if you ever travel at night. Inside is a prayer bead string and a piece of paper with your name. As long as you don't call out, and keep your heart light, you won't encounter her again." Lin received it, her hands still trembling slightly. She looked out at the temple yard, where the first morning light broke through the mist. Everything had returned to stillness. A week after leaving Lin Fap Temple, Lin resumed her normal life. She still worked from home, still reviewed reports from clients, still made her morning coffee as usual. But something was no longer the same. On her first day out, while stopping at a red light near Tan Thuan Bridge, Lin happened to glance at her rearview mirror. By the roadside, there was a person in white, standing silently with her back turned. A slender figure, arms hanging down, long hair draping halfway down her back. Lin blinked and turned to look. No one was there. She sat still for a few seconds, heart pounding. No, that was supposed to be over, wasn't it? She gripped the steering wheel tighter and tried to breathe evenly. The light turned green. The car rolled forward. She didn't dare look back. That night, Lin shut her laptop and got ready for bed. She remembered the cloth pouch the abbot had given her, the one she had never opened. She took it out of the drawer and placed it on the table. Slowly, she opened it. Inside was a worn wooden prayer bead string, with a faint scent of agarwood lingering, and a folded piece of paper. Lin opened it. It was a charm paper. The ink slightly smudged, written with her full name. She muttered, "The monk said as long as I keep my name with me, I won't be mistaken, right?" Right then, the power in her room cut out. There was no rain, no wind, just a silent darkness. Her phone vibrated. On the screen was a call from an unknown number, but the number was exactly the same as hers. Lin's heart went cold. She stared at it, her hand frozen. The call rang 3 times, then ended. The screen went black. Behind her came 3 knocks on the door. She swallowed hard, clutching the prayer beads, voice trembling. Who's there? No answer. She walked to the door, eyes pressed to the peephole. The hallway was empty. She turned away and stepped back toward the table, when one bead from the string in her hand snapped off, falling to the floor with a soft clink. She bent down to pick it up, her palm icy cold. The charm beside it had another corner smudged. The next morning, Lin told the story to her close friend. Queen frowned. "You're still keeping that charm?" Lin nodded. "Yeah, the monk gave it to me, but I don't know what to do with it now." Queen sighed. "I don't believe in ghosts or spirits, but if you're seeing weird things, maybe it's a case of mistaken soul calling." Lin paused for a few seconds. "Mistaken calling? What do you mean? Like, a spirit is looking for someone to take their place? If they can't move on, they follow the person who saw them, especially the one who touched their belongings." Lin slowly released her grip on the teacup. "I held her bag." Queen looked at her, face going pale. "You brought her all the way to the temple, right? Then why is she still lingering here?" That evening, Lin didn't go home right away. Instead, she drove to a small cemetery about 10 minutes from Lin Fap Temple, the place the abbot had once mentioned. She didn't tell anyone, and she wasn't even sure what she was looking for, just that something deep inside was urging her to go. The overgrown field had grass up to her knees. Several crooked tombstones lay silently under the cloudy afternoon sky. Lin walked row by row, eyes scanning every name, every year of passing. She stopped at an old, moss-cracked grave. The headstone read, "Nguyen Thi Han, passed away 2010. Died at 18 years old. Buried on the 15th day of the 7th lunar month." Lin whispered, "It's her." She sat down beside the grave, her heart heavy. The wind rustled, blowing dried petals across the stone. Just then, a voice spoke behind her. "Are you looking for Han?" Startled, Lin turned. An old woman with silver hair stood a few steps away, leaning on a cane, squinting at her. Lin spoke respectfully. "Yes, I just wanted to know her story." The old woman walked closer, her voice steady. "She died unfairly. Back then, she went to night tutoring, asked for a ride home, then disappeared. A few days later, her body was found under the bridge." Lin clenched her hands. "The person who gave her a ride, do they know who it was?" The woman looked up, her voice raspier. "A young man. They said he saw her by the road, in a white shirt, asking to go to the temple. But no one expected that boy went home with a high fever. Then he became delirious. A few days later, he died." Lin felt her heartbeat slow. She asked softly, "What was his name?" The old woman sighed, eyes drifting into the distance. "Tin. He was just 20 when he died too." That night, Lin lay awake, still holding the prayer beads the monk gave her. She opened her phone and searched. Nguyen Thi Han, died 2010. There was an old news article, posted 15 years ago. A 12th grade girl's body was found under Phu Tho Bridge 3 days after going missing. The victim, named Nguyen Thi Han, was last seen standing by the roadside asking for a ride in the direction of Lin Fap Temple. One witness stated he had picked her up late at night but didn't know exactly where she got out. Right below was an old, faded comment, no username attached. I saw her too, but luckily, I didn't stop. Lynn closed her phone, her whole body cold. She thought to herself, if that's true, then I'm the only one who ever stopped and lived. Just then, her phone vibrated softly. A new message appeared, no sender number. Thank you, but I haven't made it back yet. Lynn turned pale. The message vanished after 2 seconds. She stared at the screen. Only the black wallpaper and faint light from the bedside lamp remained. From the hallway came the soft sound of bare feet, as if someone was walking past her door. The next afternoon, Lynn took a day off work and drove to Chowton district, the place the old woman at the cemetery had mentioned the day before. She asked around a few people, stopped at several roadside shops, and finally found a small house with a faded wooden sign, Tin's family, tucked behind banana trees and beetle palms. She knocked gently. A woman in her 50s opened the door. Eyes marked by weariness, she stared at Lynn for a moment, then asked cautiously, "Who are you looking for?" Lynn pressed her palms together respectfully. "I'm sorry to bother you, Auntie. My name is Lynn. I just wanted to ask, are you the mother of Tin, who passed away in 2010? The woman froze. Her whole face seemed to sag with emotion. After a while, she nodded, her voice soft. "Yes, I'm his mother, but that was a long time ago. Dear, why ask now?" Lynn swallowed hard and stepped onto the porch when she was invited in. She sat down on an old wooden chair, her hands lightly gripping her bag strap. "I'm sorry to be so direct. Recently, I encountered something related to Tin and a girl named Han." The woman stiffened. A soft breeze creaked the wooden window frame. Lynn lowered her voice. "I know Tin passed away after giving that girl a ride. But, I've seen her too." The woman's eyes filled with shock, and something like sorrow. She asked softly, "That girl still hasn't moved on, has she?" Lynn nodded and calmly told everything, the rainy night, the bag, Lynn Phap Temple, the strange dreams, and even the anonymous text message. The woman stayed silent for a long time, then stood and went inside. She returned with an old-school notebook, its cover yellowed with age. "Before he died, Tin wrote a few lines. I didn't understand all of it, but maybe you will." She handed the notebook to Lynn. On the last page, the handwriting was shaky but legible. That night, she smiled, but her eyes were crying. I asked, "Why haven't you returned to the temple?" She said, "I still have a promise I haven't fulfilled." I stopped the car. She got out, gave me something, then left. I didn't get a good look at it. Just remember, there was a strange white light. Since then, I've never slept peacefully again. Lynn's heart tightened as she read. What was it that kept her from leaving? The mother's voice was choked. The police never found anything in the car. But in Tin's jacket pocket, the day of the funeral, I kept something strange. She stood, searched through a wooden cabinet, and pulled out a silver bell-shaped keychain, the red tassel old and worn. Lynn took it in her hand. At that moment, a breeze stirred on the porch. The bell jingled softly, even without being touched. Lynn looked at the woman, face pale. It belongs to Han. She hasn't taken it back yet." The mother trembled slightly. "If you can hold it, then please return it for her. For Tin, and for that poor girl to find peace." Lynn nodded, placing the bell into her bag, clenching her fist tightly. She didn't know how she would give it back. But deep down, she knew. Tonight, someone will come for it. Dusk fell. Lynn sat alone in her small rented room, the yellow light casting shadows on the old plastered wall. On the wooden table sat the silver bell, placed neatly on a white cloth. The prayer beads on her wrist were worn smooth. She placed the old charm beside it, as if to protect herself. The clock struck 11:58 p.m. She didn't sleep, didn't play music, didn't turn on the TV. The room was silent, filled only with the steady ticking of the clock. "If she's coming, then let this be the last time," Lynn whispered. The silver bell remained still. Then, at exactly midnight, the window creaked open on its own, though it had been locked from the inside. A night breeze slipped through the crack, making the curtain flutter. The bell rang 3 soft chimes, ting, ting, ting. Lynn didn't panic. She sat upright, hands resting on the table, her voice steady and calm. "I kept my promise. "This belongs to you." The room temperature dropped. The white curtain fluttered harder, then slowly parted. A figure stood at the doorway. Lin didn't need to see her face to know it was her. The girl in white, long hair flowing down her back. She didn't enter, just stood still, the wind passing through her like mist. Lin gently pushed the bell forward. "This was something Tin held for you. Now, I'm giving it back." The girl said nothing. Then, she slowly glided into the room without a sound. The wind quieted. Lin looked at her, sunken eyes. Pale skin, lips pressed tight. The girl leaned down, reached out, and touched the bell. It rang once more. Clear, final. The room fell absolutely silent. Lin held her breath. The girl raised her head and looked at Lin for a long time. A single tear welled in her eye, but didn't fall. Then, she smiled. For the first time, Lin saw a gentle smile filled with peace, no longer burdened by sorrow. The girl bowed her head slightly, held the bell to her chest, and stepped back into the darkness. No wind, no sound. The window closed by itself. The curtain stopped moving. She was gone. Only a single long black hair remained on the table, next to the charm, now further smudged. The next morning, Lin woke up feeling strangely light, as if a weight deep in her heart had been lifted. She took her phone and opened the Notes app. Typed in, "This year, on the 15th of the lunar July, Han has finally left. And maybe, Tin is smiling too." She tucked the prayer beads back into her bag. And for the first time in many days, Lin smiled to herself. It rained all day in Saigon that August. Lin had just finished her shift, heading home late because of traffic. The car clock read 10:17 p.m. She turned onto Nguyen Van Lin Street. This stretch was quiet. Dark, with few cars. The streetlights formed scattered pools of dim light, and the rain still drizzled against the windshield. As she was driving slowly, Lin suddenly saw a figure standing by the roadside, near a broken lamppost by an old bus stop. No shelter, no nearby houses. The person wore a black jacket, a baseball cap, head bowed, hands in pockets, standing completely still, just like someone waiting for a ride. Lin passed by, and out of nowhere, her heart skipped a beat. Old memories came rushing back. She gripped the steering wheel tighter, turned her head away, and decided not to stop. But in the rearview mirror, she caught the figure turning to look at her. She couldn't see the face, only a flash of white glinting in the eyes, like a reflection off glasses. When she got home, Lin parked in the yard, still feeling unsettled. She locked the gate and stepped inside, trying to calm herself down. Probably just a regular person, maybe a student, or someone waiting for a ride. She took a shower, then sat down with some tea. Around 11:30 p.m., her phone suddenly vibrated. A text came from an unknown number. "I've been standing there since 10 o'clock. You were the only one who didn't stop." Lin's hands went cold. She replied, "Who are you?" The message was marked, "Seen," but no reply followed. Lin trembled slightly and quickly dialed her best friend. "Queen." Queen's voice came after 3 rings. "Lin, what's wrong?" Lin's breath was short. "I think I saw someone new. It's not Han, this time it's someone else." Queen was silent for a moment, then said, "I'm coming over. Don't stay alone." Lin nodded, not sure if her friend heard. 10 minutes later, 3 slow knocks sounded on the door. Lin called out, "Queen?" No answer. She peeked through the crack in the door. No one outside, only a black baseball cap lying face down on the steps, soaked in rain. The next morning, in the drizzling rain, Lin caught the earliest bus out of the city, heading back to Lin Fap Temple. She brought with her the prayer beads, the old faded charm, and the black cap, the one she picked up last night. She didn't know why, but she couldn't throw it away. The mountain road was covered in fog. The temple lay quietly under the bamboo, just as before, but when Lin arrived, she saw the wooden gate shut tight. A young novice monk opened it, tilting his head. "Who are you looking for, miss?" Lin bowed politely. "Is the abbot still here?" The novice lowered his head and spoke softly. "He has entered retreat. No one can meet him." "Then, is there anyone here who knows about a girl named Han?" The novice was silent for a moment, then motioned for Lin to follow a side path. He led her to a small room behind the main hall, its door covered with bamboo blinds, the light inside dim. On the table was a wooden-bound notebook. tied with a red string. The novice didn't go in, only said, "The master left this." He said, "If anyone has ever heard a bell at midnight, they may read it." Lin sat down and opened the first page. The ink was blurred, the paper yellowed, but still readable. The first line read, "List of those who have seen the figure by the roadside. Recorded by year and month. Only the living may add to this." Lin shivered. She turned the pages one by one. Halfway through, a line made her stop. Nguyen Van Tin 2010 stopped, deceased. La Hoi Nam 2012 saw but didn't stop, missing afterward. Nguyen T Lin 2024 stopped, alive. 2025 unknown. Lin touched her name. Her heart pounded. She turned the next page. It was blank, except for a single, freshly written line in ballpoint pen. "I wear a hat because I have no face. I don't speak because I once cried for help. The last person didn't hear." Lin pulled her hand away. The entire notebook felt ice cold. She turned to the novice and asked softly, "Who wrote this?" He shook his head. "Since the master entered retreat, no one has been allowed inside. Yesterday, someone came to the temple, said nothing. They just placed a hat on the table, then left." Lin looked down at the hat in her hand. "This one?" The novice simply nodded. A gust of wind howled through the courtyard. Lin held her prayer beads tighter, more unsure than ever. Then, who was that person? That night, back at her room, Lin decided to write her name again on a small piece of paper. Folded it, and placed it under her pillow. She left the black cap on the nightstand. Her phone was silent. No texts, no alarms. But exactly at 3 a.m., in her dream, Lin saw herself driving again on that same road. And this time, the person on the roadside turned around. No eyes, no mouth, just a blank, pale space where a face should be. She heard a voice, coming from nowhere and everywhere. "If you don't stop, then who will help me find my face?" A week later, Lin took time off from work. She devoted herself to researching all the disappearance cases along Nguyen Van Lin Street, the place where she had once seen the figure with the cap. She began with old news articles, then searched forums and local groups, piecing together fragments. Finally, a name emerged. Tran Quang Bao, born 2003, disappeared September 2020. Last seen at 10:30 p.m. on Nguyen Van Lin Street. Wearing a black jacket and a baseball cap. Standing by the roadside. Family reported his last call. "I'm waiting for a ride. It's raining really hard." Lin's hands trembled as she read. She checked the timestamp. September 2020, on a rainy night. The exact time, the exact place, she remembered driving past. But she hadn't stopped, hadn't looked closely, and couldn't recall the boy's face at all. She'd thought he was just someone passing by. Lin closed her laptop and sat in silence. Her hand gripped the baseball cap, now dry, but inside the lining was a smudged ink stain, as if rain had blurred a written message. She held it up to the light, tilted it, and made out, "My name is Bao. I don't know how long I've been gone." Lin felt a lump in her chest. She decided to return to the place where it all began. That night, she slowly drove down Nguyen Van Lin. Drizzle fell, as if time was rewinding. Her car clock read 10:32 p.m. She drove to the broken streetlight, stopped the car, turned off the engine. There was no one by the roadside. Lin opened the door and stepped out. The night wind was cool, distant horns echoing faintly, but this stretch of road was empty. As always, she placed the cap on a stone ledge, said nothing, just stared into the empty space. 1 minute passed, then 2, and then, footsteps, soft and light, came from behind. Lin turned. A boy, around 17, face faint in the rain, hands in his jacket pockets, stepped out from the shadows. He said nothing, didn't smile, just walked to the cap, bent down, picked it up, and looked at Lin. His eyes were deep black, but not angry, not resentful. He gave a small nod, a silent thank you, then turned, walking down the road, toward the fading light, where even the wind held its breath. Lin stood still for a long time. She knew she had just helped send another soul to where he belonged. Not because she owed anything, not because of guilt, but because, if you've ever passed by someone in need, then next time, if you can, please stop.